Hello and welcome to Note There's Only Trash Here podcast, episode 34. The date today is the 9th of December 2013. So this week there's no Mr. Muckluckable joining me, unfortunately. We usually record on Sunday, but I was busy, and then when we tried to reschedule, it just kind of didn't work out. So this probably won't be an hour long. I mean, I was planning to just not have a podcast this week and just be like, I'll just wait until next week, but I've got some spare time, so I thought I might as well record a quick half an hour podcast because a few things have kind of happened. So the first thing I want to talk about, alright, is Dark Souls, because recently I picked up a copy of Dark Souls. I was waiting to play it until I beat Bioshock Infinite, because also recently I played through and beat Bioshock Infinite, but I think I'm going to save my opinions on that game and my experience until the end of year review podcast. I think I'll wait till then. But now I'm actually playing Dark Souls, and I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Some people, or most people, seem to love the game and say it's amazing, but straight away I like what it does in a lot of ways, because in case you don't know, the whole point of Dark Souls is that it's a fantasy kind of game where you pick your character, you have some stats, you level up, but it's really hard. Like, any enemy can pretty much kill you if you're not careful enough. Like, an enemy will do an attack that will take down most of your HP, and then you're like, oh my god, and then there's another enemy, you're like, oh my god. It's just, it's just a really kind of hard, challenging game, but I think it's a bit rough around the edges. Like, a bit too much. Like, first of all, I've made this point before on the podcast about fantasy games, that why is it okay for a fantasy game to have a completely generic setting? Like, why is it, okay, Lord of the Rings happened, let's just take our setting from that, and Dungeons and Dragons, I guess I should give credit to those, that thing as well. Yeah, just take our setting from that, throw in some weird words that you've never heard of before, like Argoth on the, just that kind of nonsense, and then just throw it together and put no real effort in the enemy design, in the setting design, or anything like that. It's something that always really disappoints me about Western fantasy games. Like, once Lord of the Rings came out, they just gave up. They were just like, oh, no, that's it, they've done it, let's make the skeleton boss or the undead monster. So with Dark Souls, straight away I was a bit disappointed there, and it's a complaint I had about Skyrim as well, but it's not a major complaint, it's just something I always notice. So straight away, the story, don't care, setting, not great. But then you play the game and yeah, it's hard, and in a lot of ways it's good hard. The hard part I like about the game is that there's a lot of memorization, because the whole game is split into pretty much checkpoints where you'll reach a fire where you can save and level up, and then you pretty much have to make it to the next fireplace without dying, and then you can save there and move on. And at first this was great, and I'm really not that far into the game, but I got to a fireplace, had to go through this whole kind of section, and then that was fun, because it was pretty much, okay, I've now got to learn the patterns of the enemies, I've got to now memorize where they each spawn, if I die then I get another chance and all that. I like that. That is old school kind of gaming where you're not 100% sure what's going to get thrown at you straight away, but the game establishes itself as you should play the game and then memorize what's going on, and then you still need skill to actually get past all the obstacles, but you need the memorization. That's great. My problem is with a lot of the game is that there's two things. The first one is, I don't like that you can't just play it by yourself and be fine. Like, another feature of this game in Demon's Souls is that when you connect it online, a lot of things then appear on the floor, so other players can put messages on the floor, like, watch out round this corner, there's this enemy. There's a set number of phrases they can put down, but still they can put really useful hints. So as you're playing the game, you can read the hint and, see what you got to do, or just have a heads up. But I don't have my PS3 connected to the internet. I don't want it connected to the internet. It's a major problem I had with Bioshock Infinite as well, where the saving system on Infinite doesn't work if you're not connected to the internet, because the way the chapters and autosave work, it's based off the clock in your 360, and the 360 clock resets every time you turn it off. It goes back to the 22nd of November 2005 at 12 o'clock, so that doesn't work. So in general, when I'm playing a single player game like Dark Souls, I don't want to be connected to the internet. Where I am in my uni house, it's a hassle getting connected and having it to work, so I just want to avoid it. But no, with Dark Souls it's designed so you need to be connected to the internet, because past the tutorial you then don't get any of the hints. And you need the hints. There's just some things you kind of need to know about. Like there's a bridge, and then there's some enemies out in the middle of the bridge. You walk onto the bridge, a dragon just shows up and kills you. And it's like, oh, well, you know, if I was playing online, there would have been a hint on the floor saying run across the bridge or watch out for the dragon or something like that, but I didn't get that hint because I'm not connected online. So I'm being penalised for trying to play a single player game not online. It's the reason why I don't like the original Legend of Zelda back on the NES, because the whole point in that game, Miyamoto has talked about it, that he was like, okay, it's a big open world, there's a lot you need to do, but you discover it and kind of get lucky and explore enough, and then you can talk to other people about it, and then you can kind of with friends piece together the whole game and figure out like that. But I don't think that sort of game design is kind of relevant anymore. I just don't think it kind of works. So when you play the Legend of Zelda now, you just need to look up a guide. Or someone just tells you, like, go there, then go do this, and then make sure you have that thing, and then do that. That's what you got to do. You just got to look up a guide. And with Dark Souls, it seems to be the ultimate version of what Miyamoto wanted to do with the original Legend of Zelda, where instead of having to go up to friends and discuss the game like that, it's just hints from the community. I don't like it. It's a single player experience. I want to be able to play it by myself and experience it by myself, and because with The Legend of Zelda, I use this as a reference, the fun part of the game is figuring out the puzzles and figuring out what you're supposed to do. And that's what makes it really excel. And it's why with Wind Waker HD, towards the end with the Triforce pieces and the way they changed it with the Ghost Ship, when it got abstract, I gave up. Because the fun part to me is figuring stuff out. And it's why I don't mind the series going more story orientated and not being about exploration, because for some people, the old school gamers of Zelda, they're all about the exploration when it comes to Zelda, which is why they love A Link to the Past and the originals. For me, it's just the process of figuring out a puzzle. That's the fun part, and progressing through the game by figuring stuff out and, you know, using logic, or the Zelda logic I should say, to piece everything together so you can then progress. That's the fun part for me, and which is why I don't mind the series moving away from exploration. But with Dark Souls, it's just read something on the floor or have someone tell you it, and then you can kind of, then that's how you figure it out. So it's just kind of disappointing that I can't just have a single player experience and just experience it by myself. But I mean, I guess some people like it, which is fine. I mean, they can, this is just a preference, you know, really. But then another problem I have, and is why I've kind of given up on it at the moment, is that the point I'm at, I got all the way past like a lot of stuff, defeated a boss, that Dragon Fire Bridge I talked about earlier, I got past that, but then the game kind of messed up, because the whole point is that you have the bridge with the enemies. What you're meant to do, which I had to look up online because I don't know how you're meant to figure this out by yourself, you're meant to run across the bridge, avoid the enemies and their arrows that they're shooting at you, and then on the right there's some stairs, which by the way, you can't see the stairs from where you're standing to get across the bridge. You just can't see them. And you don't want to risk it because you have to go through a lot of enemies to get to that point, and there's no save point, so if you die you have to go all the way back and do it over again just because you're trying to figure out what to do. So yeah, so you're meant to just run and get past the enemies, and then you jump down the stairs, and if you're quick enough the dragon won't breathe fire on you and you can make it. The dragon didn't breathe fire at all. Apparently I was so quick that the dragon just didn't breathe fire, so then I had 4 enemies trying to kill me, which in Dark Souls is just really hard to take care of. You just can't hold your ground against them. You have to kind of come up with some sort of strategy to just move around them and do it that way. You just can't take them head on because it's hard. You're just going to get killed. So I had to run away, and then I just ran into more enemies, and then I ran into a Black Knight who is meant to be like impossible to kill. Then I get poisoned, and then I die, and I have to go all the way back. So I was really frustrated by that because I didn't get a chance to actually explore for myself the whole area and see what was going on, and I couldn't take it in because I was being chased by these enemies that should have been killed by the dragon but just weren't, because the game is a bit rough around the edges. Like, another problem I had with it was that you can get just stuck on walls and stuff like that, and also sometimes during combat you can just not get hit for no reason. Like, a boss will swing his club or whatever and you just won't get hit for no apparent reason, and then you can do the same thing and get hit. So it's a bit rough around the edges there, which is disappointing, because if you're going to have a really hard game, you've got to have the combat work properly. Like, the combat in Dark Souls isn't fluid, but it's fine. It's not meant to be. It makes it harder. It's a bit like Castlevania 1, where the whip is slow, but it's meant to be, so it works. So apparently what you were meant to do, when I read up the guide, once you get across the bridge, those enemies should have been killed by the dragon, and then you explore under the bridge for a little bit, and you find a ladder which takes you back to that save point, or that fireplace, so when you die and go back to that fireplace, you can just climb up the ladder, and then you're just where you were. You're past the dragon. But I didn't know this. I didn't have time to explore. I don't have the hints, so the hints on the floor didn't tell me, oh, just go kick down that ladder. I didn't get that because I'm not playing online. I had to look it up in a guide. So now I have to do that whole part all over again. And I've done that part over and over and over again, memorizing it, so I could beat the boss before it. Because you have to go through all these enemies, and then you beat a boss, and then there's the dragon. Now, the boss does stay dead, but I'm just tired of it. It's just, like, there should have been a save point right there. There shouldn't have been there shouldn't have been like a Metroid style shortcut to it, or if there was, it should have been more obvious. It should have been just right there. So it makes me think, if they're not doing well with their level design early on, because I'm not far in the game, maybe an hour or so. I mean, it depends, because I've been playing it for a good few hours. It's just I haven't made that much progress because it's hard. But if the level design is already bad and the combat is a bit, I don't need it to be more fluid, I don't need it to be like Metal Gear Rising, but the fact that it can be a bit inconsistent is kind of a problem. Then I just don't want to, I'm just not invested anymore. I was invested when I was trying to beat that boss, trying to go through all the enemies without taking damage and all that kind of stuff, and figuring out the best tactic to beat the boss, and leveling up and collecting souls to level up. That was fun. The memorization part and figuring the game out, that's fun. But dealing with the inconsistent combat, the generic fantasy setting, and also just the fact that the game doesn't seem to be fair when it needs to be. Like, the game is unfair with, like, instant kill stuff. That's fine. That's part of the memorization. But not having a fireplace or a save point when I desperately needed one, because I made it to the next area. Like, if you continue a bit on after that bridge, it's the next area, and I made it there. It came with like undead, whatever it called, so I was like, oh, I'm in the next area, that's pretty cool. I really hope there's a save point soon. But then, of course, I got poisoned and killed, so that didn't happen, and now I have to do it all over again. And that just, it's killed it. It's just really killed it for me. So I know I might have annoyed the people who really like Dark Souls, and you can use the usual complaints. Oh, you just suck at it. But really, there should have been a save point there, because if you're going to be really harsh in some ways, you've got to be really fair in other ways. Like with Castlevania, it's like, if with that original game on the NES, if when you got a game over, it restarted you to the beginning of the game, or Mega Man, I'll throw Mega Man in as well. If it just restarted you to the beginning of the game if you run out of lives and had continues, then that's being way too harsh, because then you have to play it all over again and it kills it. But once you do run out of lives, you have to begin the level over again and you lose your checkpoints. That's then being fair. But there's still the challenge of going back through the level, memorizing it, getting better at the game, increasing your skill, figuring out the level and figuring out boss tactics. There's still that element of it's being harsh because you have to figure stuff out and memorize stuff and get better, but it's being fair because it's never going to throw you too far back. But with Dark Souls, it's poorly designed, so it threw me too far back. So I don't know, maybe I'll jump back into it at some point, I don't know. It really has soured the whole experience for me if the people at Bandai Namco or Namco Bandai, I don't know how that name is, I don't know. I'll just say Bandai, that's what's on the box. If they just thought that was a good idea to have a shortcut back and that it's fair to expect you to explore when being attacked by enemies, I just because obviously the game's going to get harder, so it's going to get worse. It can only get worse. Alright, well, that's me and Dark Souls, so not great so far, not great, but I'll try and play it some more. I don't know, maybe I'll play Demon Souls or something like that. I don't really care. So let's talk about the other bits of news that happened. So first off is about Tomb Raider. Only a small bit of news, but Tomb Raider is being ported to next-gen systems. Now, Tomb Raider came out last March, I believe. I think early March on 360, PS3 and PC, and was great. I loved that Tomb Raider game. I think a lot of people had some problems with the way Lara Croft was reinvented as a character, and how some people said it was an Uncharted rip-off, but I haven't played Uncharted properly, and I liked the way Lara was in this game, and I thought it was a really great looking game. There's a good variety. It was really fun. I just really enjoyed it. I can't really say much more than that, because I did review it, but I had a really hard time reviewing it, because really it was just like everything works pretty much flawlessly. The controls are good. There's a lot of cool set pieces, and I really like it. That's all I could say when I did that review of it. But it was awesome. I gave it a 9 out of 10. That's like one of the highest scores I've given to a game this year. I think it might be the highest. I can't think of anything I've given higher that I actually reviewed. But yeah, really awesome game. So I think it's pretty cool it's coming to Xbox One and PS4. I don't know if it's worth getting, because I don't have a PS4 or Xbox One. I probably will never get an Xbox One, but eventually I do plan to get a PS4. But I don't know if it's worth picking up, because I would like to replay the game, and it's coming with all the DLC, and they are redoing the graphics, but I think the graphics were already awesome in the original, so I don't know if it's worth me paying all this money to buy it again just for the DLC and the better graphics. I don't know. I have to see when it comes down to it. It depends when I actually do pick up a PS4, because it'll be at least after Christmas, so it really does depend, but maybe I will get it. I would like to revisit that game, because it was good. Although I think I can get it for like 15 quid on 360 and PS3 now, so maybe I should just play that one instead. But it's interesting that they are porting old games to Xbox One and PS4, because this is the first one to actually do it, because there's been games coming out like Assassin's Creed and Battlefield and COD where they've come out on both systems, but we haven't seen any ports yet. So the fact that Tomb Raider is porting itself implies that maybe some other, current gen or old gen 360 PS3 games are going to get ported to next gen systems. I wouldn't care about like The Last of Us or games like that being ported, like games coming out in the last year. I know that's hypocritical, because Tomb Raider came out in the last year. But I would be interested to see if maybe older games, like games that came out towards the beginning of the 360 and PS3's life cycle, I can't really think of any examples that I would be that like excited about. But it's cool that people are doing it, so it's definitely an option. So I don't know, maybe this will open the way for older games to come out. That'd be kind of nice. I mean, really, I'm more interested to see if they ever do Wii games on the Wii U, because then you would take the Wii game, better graphics, you can do a lot more, just to see certain Wii games in HD. Like, I would love to see a Super Mario Galaxy collection on the Wii U. That would be amazing. That'd be really amazing. Just put them in HD. I know they did Wind Waker in HD, but they actually kind of went all in with redoing the graphics, so I don't know if Nintendo would ever settle for just porting games and putting it in HD on the Wii U, but it was something I would really like to see. And I guess they did it with Wii Sports already, although that's kind of a bit different, but they did already do it with Wii Sports, so I don't know. I would like to see it, but I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Alright, so we had the VGX Awards, or I don't know if that's what they're called, I really don't care. Pretty much, in case you don't know, the VGX are like meant to be the main award ceremony for video games in a year. Like, you have the BAFTAs have one that's pretty good, and then you have these ones. And they used to be called the VGAs, and they get shown on Spike, which is apparently a TV station or a TV channel over in the US of A. I mean, I don't think it's over here. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I don't care. And it's awful. I think everyone kind of knew it was awful, but this year they had a really good opportunity. Like, they set up the live stream, they had a lot of people showing up. It seemed like they were going all in, or it should have been their year, the VGX, where they had people interested, people watching. It's built up enough momentum over the years for people to have that interest, and then it was just kind of awful. Like, just really underwhelming, and who really cares? Like, first of all, I won't go through all the nominations and awards because I don't care, but they're all just fine. It was like, oh, GTA 5 got Game of the Year, okay. Cool. It's like kind of hard to care. Like with film and music, it's like I'm not that invested in film and music to really get that into that and complain about it. It's just more interesting, like, oh, the Oscar this year went to that thing. Oh, okay, that's kind of interesting that happened. But with video games, I have my own personal taste, so I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna buy a game because it got an award. Like, it's kind of interesting, I guess. But I still think GTA 5 is mediocre, even though it got Game of the Year. Like, I guess I would have liked to seen The Last of Us get Game of the Year if I had to pick one out of the list. Because the list was GTA 5, Bioshock Infinite, Last of Us, Super Mario 3D World, and then there was another one that obviously wasn't that memorable. Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider got it. Got nominated as well. But I just don't care. It's just I have my own opinion. Why would I... It's not interesting, and there's no credibility behind it. Like the Oscars have years and years of credibility where they gave out so many awards. It's been around for years and years. VGAs or VGX has been around for a few years, but I think like 2007, 2006 maybe even before that, but there just doesn't seem to be any credibility behind it, so it doesn't matter if anyone wins or loses. So, and apparently the actual live stream itself was just awful. I didn't watch it because it's like I tweeted this. I tweeted that I'm interested to see what's going to happen at VGX, but I don't want to watch the live stream and support them. And then I put what a pickle afterwards. And it's quite funny because VGX, their Twitter account, favorited that tweet. Like they favorited that tweet because they have a Twitter account called VGX 2013, or maybe it's just called VGX, I'm not sure. And it like only has 270 followers. So yes, obviously they're trying their hardest, but because it's just awful, nobody really cares. But the thing is, they had a chance here though. Reggie, who's the president of Nintendo of America, went to the event and revealed some stuff or talked about a certain game. And he kind of was like, yeah, I'm going to be here on the website for the VGX. They were like, yeah, Reggie's going to be here. There's going to be grades or whatever. And then he showed up with someone from Retro and then just said how Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, new character, Cranky Kong, that's pretty cool. He has like his cane, so that he plays like Scrooge McDuck does in DuckTales. And then the release date, hold on, let's have a look. I better quote this exactly. February 21st. So yeah, so that's kind of cool, but it's not really anything. It's like, okay, that would have been a really good segment on Nintendo Direct. Like one part of a Nintendo Direct, they're like, oh yeah, Donkey Kong Country, here's the new character, here's the release date, get excited. That would have been cool, but at the VGX Awards, you kind of want something kind of cool and big, and they just didn't have anything. And also, the guys that hosted it was douchebags as well, because you had the guy from Retro and Reggie, and they were talking about the game, showing it off, and then they had two presenters. Now, some of their questions I liked, and some of them I didn't, because they were just trying to be the cool, like, hey, what are you doing? They were trying to be that guy, or those people. So some of the questions I kind of liked, like, one of them asked how is Nintendo going to kick PS4's and Xbox One's ass? Maybe he could have phrased it nicer, but I like that he asked a direct question of what are you going to do? And then Reggie is so good at this kind of stuff. He was like, if you look it up on the internet, everyone is saying that we have the best game of the next generation. And if you're having a look at what everyone is saying, everyone is saying how Nintendo is the place to be, because of the 3DS doing well and Super Mario 3D World reviewing so well and it's the best reviewed game on next gen systems. So that's what he said. So he had an answer. He nailed it. And then they were just like, so how much money have you made off Super Mario 3D World? And it's just like, who asked that question? It's not like I want someone to be honest when it came to that, or when it comes to an interview situation. You know, with the media, they can just kind of be a bit dishonest and kind of tiptoe around certain things, and rather than directly ask a question, they're like, what about blah, 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 blah. So I like that somebody was being direct, but then they were obviously just trying too hard to be the cool guy. Like, just trying way too hard. Like, and then they also asked the question to the retro guys, like, so are you making anything else as well? Which, you know, maybe was a bit disrespectful, because of course the media does have to have some integrity. Like, you have to be like, hey, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, it's looking really good, but do you have anything else on the horizon? Something like that. So he did ask it like a bit of an arsehole, but, you know, I like that he asked it. And then basically he was like, hey, maybe you have 2 teams going, maybe there's another team making somewhere else. Then the retro guy was like, oh, I can't say. I can't disclose that information. So I like that. But then they were just like, oh, they were awful. Just go watch that clip and they'll be like, okay, they're just awful. They're just trying way too hard. They want to be cool. Like, one of them tried to bring up the sales of Super Mario 3D World in Japan. Like, but didn't even like directly ask it. Just be like, I heard it didn't do well in Japan. Like, under his breath almost. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I didn't watch this live, by the way, because when this happened, this started at 11 o'clock GMT time, or GMT, I guess the T stands for time, so yeah, 11 o'clock GMT. And that was when Mr. McLuckable's stream was happening on Saturday, so I was watching that, and then I watched the Nintendo clip afterwards. Although it was quite funny, during Mr. McLuckable's stream, I don't know if he's listening to this, but I fell asleep. Like, I was really tired, so I was like drifting in and out from like 10:30 onwards, and then I eventually just kind of fell asleep before the end, and was just like, just passed out and gone. So my bad. I was really tired, so I just kind of nodded off a little bit. But no, the VGX, they had their chance. They had the chance to be like a legitimate thing. People were interested, and they just messed up. They just weren't professional enough, because you've got to have a certain level of that, and they just weren't interesting enough or anything like that. And the biggest announcement that came from it was this Nintendo thing, and that was next to nothing. So they kind of messed up. And it's kind of weird though, because VGAs have had some big announcements. VGAs, that's where Batman Arkham City was announced. They announced Batman Arkham City, and they had that trailer which was like the camera going through the streets of a abandoned, ruined Gotham, and then it eventually reached a house and was like, there's the Joker, but the Joker was looking really ill and worn out, just looked like crap. So yeah, so they had a big announcement like that, the VGAs, before. But so this year they just kind of didn't have anything, but the interest was there, so now the interest just isn't there. I don't know if we're ever going to have a legitimate video game award, like ever. I don't know. I would kind of like to have one, but I guess the closest is the BAFTAs at this point. But even then, it's kind of a bit of a throwaway thing. No one really cares, so I don't know. It'd be nice to see one day, but the VGX is not it, and will never be it, I don't think. Alright, well, let's end off the podcast by talking about Telltale. The other big news that happened this week, they had confirmed that they are making a Game of Thrones game, and they announced that they are making a Borderlands game. Now, when I say game, it means that they're doing episodes. So just like with The Walking Dead and The Wolves Among Us. Oh, they also confirmed that Walking Dead Season 2 is going to start, in December, and there was a release date. 17th, I think, maybe. It's in the second half of December. It's being released. But yeah, so they announced that Game of Thrones. They confirmed it because it was pretty much confirmed anyway. Like it was heavily rumored, and now Telltale has just confirmed it, which should be cool. I mean, I kind of need more details about the Game of Thrones project before I get excited about it. Because my thing about Game of Thrones is that I no interest in the books, but the TV show is really good. And my thing, just like with The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, is why would I read the books and ruin a TV show I really like? Like, I'm going to be honest, I know some people's like, oh, you should read the books, the differences in the books. It's like, I don't care. I have a TV show I really like. By reading the books, I might enjoy them, sure, but all I'm doing is reading spoilers for a TV show I want to watch. So if it ever got spoiled for me, Game of Thrones, I would stop watching the TV show. I just would lose all interest in it. And then I guess I would read the books. And that's if I got any major spoilers. I would then read the books. Same with The Walking Dead. I think if I got any major spoilers about it, then I would probably just stop watching the TV show and just read the comics from the beginning. Because the interest is gone. part of what makes Game of Thrones and Walking Dead good is the surprises, and if the surprises aren't there, then it's kind of dead to me. But yeah, so with Telltale, I'm going to have to wait for more information with their Game of Thrones project. But the Borderlands one is weird, like really weird. It's pretty much, it's an episodic thing as they're all other projects, and it's called Tales from the Borderlands, and it's going to have some existing characters but also some new ones. And it sounds terrible. Like, out of all the universes that you could tackle with a Telltale style episodic content or series, why Borderlands? It's not interesting plays. It's a really dull, generic place. The only reason I think people would argue against me on that is because of the graphics. But other than that, it's really quite just like whatever. It's just kind of a wasteland where there's some bounty hunters hanging out. The story is like the worst part of Borderlands. Well, I don't think so, but it's the most like just standard part. Like, it's just kind of a throwaway thing. Sure, there's some like interesting characters in it, or just funny characters. I shouldn't say interesting. Like, some of the characters have like a couple of good lines, but it's not like it's not a place I want to see, like a story be told. Because of course with Telltale, it's story focused. That's their biggest strength, and going through the story. So with Borderlands, they're really going to have to stretch it out if they're going to come up with anything good. And all the good stuff that has come from Telltale has been like extreme violence and stuff like that. Like The Walking Dead was all about the extremes of a zombie outbreak and all the horrible stuff that happens, like surviving. That was its strength. And then The Wolf Among Us, I've seen stuff about it, and it seems like it's going for more of it's a similar, darker kind of tone. So I don't know how you could have that dark tone in Borderlands. I just think this one's going to flop. Like, I don't like Borderlands anyway. I don't want to go into it again, but I'm just not a fan. So I think even fans of Borderlands might be excited about it, but if you're really honest, like, anyone out there who loved Borderlands, really, like, out of all the universes out there, like, out of all the video game universes, Borderlands is the one that they're now doing. It just seems stupid. I mean, I'm going to have to see more of it before I actually kind of be like, oh, okay, maybe they're going to do something with it. But out of all the universes they could tackle, Borderlands is just so low on the list that this is just disappointing. And also, I'm kind of confused about Telltale. Like, aren't they just stretching themselves too thin? Like, really too thin. It just seems ridiculous. Like, they have The Walking Dead Season 2, and then The Wolves Among Us, but then they always have delays. Like, I think The Walking Dead, they said it's coming out 2013, but it's only just coming out in 2013. Then I think The Wolves Among Us Episode 2 has been, like, delayed and pushed back. So it seems like, shouldn't they at least start finishing these off? Like, they've just started a new season of The Wolf Among Us, or their first season, and now they're just about to start Season 2 of The Walking Dead. I think they're just stretching themselves too thin, and one of these projects is either just going to be massively delayed and just going to be annoying, you know, it's going to be another Half-Life 2 Episode 3, or it's just going to be disappointing and just, yeah, they're just spreading themselves too thin. Alright, well, I think that's it for a podcast. That's a good half an hour. So, yeah, I did get an email this week, and of course you can send emails to the podcast at onlytrashherepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to send your emails with questions or whatever. And I did receive one, but I'm going to wait until next week when Mr. McLuckable is going to join me again. Because it seems, you know, unfair to just answer it and then... Yeah, it makes more sense to answer it next week. So anyway, so yeah, thanks for listening, and I will see you next week.